The video shows a man in his apartment at night. The room has a wooden floor. Looks quite messy and dark, creating a claustrophobic feeling. From the beginning, the man appears to be panicked and frustrated. He repeatedly stomps his feet on the floor and shouts in Japanese phrases like, "Urasai," "too noisy," "shut up," seemingly scolding some invisible force that is making noise from below. This action shows that the incident has been going on for a while and the man is in a state of extreme stress. The noises are not only coming from the floor but also spreading throughout the room. The furniture in the house begins to be violently impacted. A bookcase is pushed over. Other objects are thrown and shuffled. When the camera quickly pans to a corner of the room, a ghost appears. From the left side of the screen, next to a doorframe, a ghostly face of a woman with pale skin, eyes and mouth wide open in horror suddenly appeared, accompanied by a cold scream. As soon as the ghost appeared, the man let out a final scream and the video ended abruptly, leaving the viewer with a feeling of extreme fear and obsession. The video begins with a person in a restroom. Here, a figure is squatting, head down, covering most of the face. This person's appearance is very unusual and ominous. Suddenly, the figure in the corner raises its face. Instead of a normal face, it is a monstrous, gaunt face, with big black eyes and many sharp hands like goblins hugging the face. This whole scene happened suddenly, startling the viewers. It shows that the person filming was extremely scared and was trying to run away. What do you think you would do if you saw this scene? The video begins with a long-haired girl wearing bright clothes sitting alone at an outdoor stone table at night. At first, the girl sits still, but as the camera moves closer, the girl's face gradually becomes clearer with big, dark eyes and a wide, scary smile. The ghost girl begins to make slight movements, slowly looking down and then up, but the creepy smile remains on her face. The cameraman tries to talk to her but there is no response. When the cameraman intends to move closer, the ghost girl suddenly raises her hand and points straight at the camera as a warning. A strange white light appears and flies across the screen, adding to the horror. Despite the threat, the cameraman moves the camera very close to the table. The image of the ghost girl becomes clearer and scarier than ever. Notably, at around 2:50, another hand, looking gaunt and ghostly, suddenly appears from the top right of the frame, as if another entity was there. The video opens with a close-up shot of a marbled tombstone at night. The light from a flashlight cuts across the surface of the tombstone, revealing inscriptions and a portrait of a young woman with black hair. The atmosphere in the video is dark and creepy, enhanced by a sad soundtrack. On the screen appears a comment from a TikTok user that reads, "Is this real?" Immediately after, a series of dialogue sounds begin. The girl's voice, softly,
"Please tell me the way."
The cameraman replies, "I don't know." The camera begins to pan up above the tombstone. Suddenly, a ghostly, pale face with long, flowing black hair and haunting eyes appears from the darkness, looking straight into the lens. The conversation continues with a female voice echoing in a creepy way. The girl's voice,
"Let me ask, which path can take you to the end of happiness?"
Immediately after this question, the camera shakes violently, creating the feeling that the cameraman is extremely panicked and running away. The scene becomes blurry and chaotic. The video ends with the last words of the female voice, echoing hauntingly amid the sound of hurried footsteps. The girl's voice,
"I think I have chosen the right path."
What would you do if you were walking alone in a dense forest at night and suddenly came across this scene? The video captures the moment a person was exploring a remote area and suddenly discovered a figure dressed in white, head covered with a scarf, standing motionless in the middle of the bushes. Its appearance was extremely strange, with a pale and lifeless face, making viewers shiver. But the strangest and most haunting thing was the vibrant electronic music echoing in the quiet space, creating an unbelievable contrast. The person filming tried to communicate but received no response. In the end, it seemed that he was too scared and had to run away. In your opinion, is this a supernatural phenomenon, a joke, or just a mannequin? Leave a comment below to share your thoughts. The video begins. A white shadow, looking like a face or a light object, appears to hover in the darkness of the doorway. It moves slightly and then disappears. A man screams, "Get the hell out!" expressing anger and fear. Immediately after, a yellow talisman is thrown from an unseen direction, flying across the screen and falling to the ground. This action shows that an invisible force is affecting the objects in the room. The yellow paper talisman stuck on the wall near the door suddenly falls down. Immediately, the wooden door automatically slams shut with a loud bang, creating a loud noise. Do you think this spirit is a ghost or a demon? In ancient Southeast Asian stories, people have always told each other about a terrifying demon, a creature that looks like a normal woman during the day, but when night falls, its upper body will separate from its lower body, growing hideous bat wings, and flying away to find prey. People thought it was just a legend, until one night, in a remote forest, a group of people witnessed it with their own eyes. It landed on the roof. Huge, bloody bat wings, a pale face, and a huge, red smile as if it had just devoured something. It looked straight at the cameraman, and let out a savage laugh. A laugh that chilled people to the bone. Then, it flapped its wings, and disappeared into the darkness. The people there probably would never forget that terrifying moment for the rest of their lives. The creature you just saw, in Filipino legend, is called the Manananggal. This is a blood-sucking demon that preys on pregnant women to suck out the fetus with its long, proboscis-like tongue, or to eat the organs of sleeping people. Its only weakness is its left behind lower half. If someone finds it and sprinkles salt or garlic on that lower half, the Manananggal will not be able to reunite and will die by dawn. The question is, while this demon is roaming around on the roof, where is its lower half hiding? In the corner of the room, a woman with long black hair covering her face was standing motionless. Suddenly, this woman moved and disappeared strangely, as if she was walking through the wall. Immediately after, the person in the wheelchair and the nurse were very scared. The two of them knew that they had encountered a real ghost in this hospital. Let's watch the video again. Let me tell you, the story is that there was a security guard. Probably because he was too tired from the night shift. So he put a plastic chair outside the gate to sit and enjoy the cool air. It was late at night, completely deserted. The wind was blowing. He fell asleep without realizing it. Just as everything was going on, Suddenly, from the darkness, a white shadow appeared. A woman, wearing a long, white dress, completely covering her head. Her face was unclear. That shadow did not walk normally, but just glided, light, without a sound, straight towards the sleeping security guard. And then, the most terrible thing happened. That shadow did not go around, but just like that, went straight through the security guard, goed through his whole body, through the chair, and disappeared into the iron gate. At that moment, the security guard woke up with a start. Perhaps in his daze, he felt a cold air running down his spine. He was terrified, looked around, his face drained of blood. Then, without saying a word, he threw down the chair, ran inside at full speed. I don't know if he dared to stay there after that night. But that white shadow must still be around somewhere. What do you think that spirit is looking for? Let me know what you think. Everyone knows, coming home late from work always has hidden risks. But the risks that the older sister in this story encountered were truly beyond our imagination. It was a quiet late night. She had just finished work, exhausted, just wanting to get home quickly. The road home was familiar every day. But tonight, it was eerily quiet. The video we saw was taken from a security camera. Viewed from above, the black and white and grainy image further enhanced the ghostly feeling. Everything was still quiet, until, from the darkness, a small white figure began to appear. It did not walk, but it crawled strangely on the ground. Its small body, glowing dimly in the night. And then, a shrill scream rang out, tearing apart the silence. "Help me!" It was the older sister's voice. She must have seen it. The scream was full of panic and despair. "Help me! Help me!" The white figure continued to move. It twitched, writhed, every movement unnatural, as if it was in some kind of pain, or as if it was not a creature of this world. The scream continued, haunting, despair. Then suddenly, the white figure disappeared into the darkness, as suddenly as it had appeared. The video begins with the cameraman's perspective watching a figure standing in the tall grass. The figure is dressed in a white shirt and dark pants. The cameraman begins to scream in panic. He repeatedly utters, "Astaghfirullah," an Islamic exclamation meaning, "I ask Allah for forgiveness," expressing extreme terror. His panic increases when he realizes the most terrifying thing. The figure has no head. Dak Ada Kepalanya. It has no head. The cameraman continues to scream, calling out the name of God, Ya Allah Gusti, and swearing, Jancik, a common Indonesian swear word. In his panic, he tries to face his fear, shouting at the figure, "Who are you? Don't play with me. You fool. You scared me." The camera shakes violently, showing the cameraman trying to stay calm and scared, but eventually losing his cool and running away. The screen becomes chaotic, wobbly, and eventually goes black. If you know the headless man, please let me know. There are moments in our lives that science cannot explain. They often happen when we least expect them, especially at night, in our own familiar homes. Today's story is a terrifying example of that. A short clip was recorded from a family's security camera, and it captured a scene. Unbelievable but true. This is the scene inside a house at night. Everything looks normal. The wife is busy cleaning and washing dishes in the kitchen after a long day. The space is quiet, except for the sound of running water. She has no idea that she is not alone. Now, let's pay attention to the hallway behind her. From the darkness, something begins to appear. Do you see? A white, blurry figure is slowly approaching. This figure is not walking, but seems to be gliding across the floor, a movement that is not natural. The white figure is floating, gently moving straight towards the kitchen, where the wife is unprepared. At this point, the woman in the video starts to turn around and scream,
Hey, hey, brother.
Immediately, the husband rushed out of the room, but when he ran over, the uninvited guest had disappeared as if he had never existed. The camera stopped here, leaving us with a haunting and a series of unanswered questions. What is that white shadow? A spirit? A supernatural phenomenon that accidentally entered the lens? As the owner of the video wrote, spirituality is no joke. And you, what do you think about this scene? Is this evidence of the spiritual world, or just a coincidence? Leave your comments below. Have you ever driven alone on a deserted road at midnight? When all around is pitch black darkness, the steady hum of the engine, and the single streak of headlights cutting a lonely path forward. That feeling, both quiet and somewhat creepy, as if there is another parallel world existing right next to us. Our story today originates from such a video that has been circulating online for years, causing countless controversies and sending chills down the spines of millions of people every time they watch it. The footage was captured from the inside of a passenger bus driving at night. Everything seemed normal, until… Wait, see? Right in front of the car, where the headlights were shining, a figure suddenly appeared. It seemed to be a woman with long hair falling down, covering most of her face. The most frightening thing was not her appearance, but the way she appeared. She did not run, did not walk, but seemed to be gliding on the road in an unnatural way, right in front of the car that was speeding away. Look closely. That gaze, even though it only passed by for a moment, seemed to be looking straight into the cockpit. A soulless, resentful gaze. Then, as quickly as it appeared, the figure bent down and disappeared into the darkness, as if swallowed by the road itself. It is rumored that this is the ghost of an unfortunate victim who died in a tragic traffic accident caused by this very car. Her soul cannot be released, still lingering in the mortal world, clinging to the car and the driver like a curse, a never-ending obsession. Every night bus ride, she reappears, like a creepy reminder of the tragedy of the past. Is this undeniable evidence of unjust souls? Or is it just a sophisticated product of cinematic techniques? Until now, there is still no final answer. But one thing is for sure. The image of the woman gliding through the dark night will forever haunt those who have witnessed it. And you, what do you think about this video? Leave a comment and let me know. A strange noise, and then, gliding under the table, a pair of bare feet. Silently, without a sound, fear began to rise. The cameraman panned the room. Even more terrifying, on the old TV screen, a blurry face suddenly appeared and then disappeared. The Melaleuca forest at noon was strangely quiet. The sun could not warm the gloomy air. Seeping through the thin, bony tree trunks. Fawn, a man with some courage and compassion for spiritual matters, came here after hearing about a wandering soul. He knelt down, burned a handful of votive paper. The gray smoke curled up and disappeared into thin air. He muttered a prayer, hoping to help some soul be liberated. Suddenly, a chilling wind blew through him. Fawn raised his head. From afar, between the rows of trees, a white shadow appeared. It was a woman, wearing an old al-ba-ba, her long black hair hanging down, completely covering her face. She just stood there, silent, a shadowy figure as if she did not belong to this world. Phong was startled, his heart pounded. He stood up in fear, intending to run away, but when he turned to look back, she had disappeared. He carefully walked along the path. The sound of dry leaves crunching under his feet was terrifying. And then, she appeared again at the end of the path. Like an invitation, an invisible lure. Just like that, she retreated deeper into the darkness. And Phong, as if hypnotized, followed. At a turn, he faced her. This time, he did not run. He knelt down, his voice trembling. "Oh, the girl's soul. I came here with no intention of harming her. I only hope to help her soul to be liberated." As he spoke, he continued to burn the last pieces of paper money, praying sincerely for the poor girl. But the answer to his plea was not peace. In a terrifying moment, that white shadow suddenly rushed forward. Like an arrow tearing through the quiet space, Phong screamed silently, fear choking his throat. He threw everything away, ran as fast as he could, not daring to look back. When he had run out of the forest, he stood panting, sweat pouring out like a shower. The Kajapit forest had become quiet again, as if nothing had happened. The spirit had disappeared, but something urged him to turn back. Gathering all his courage, Phong tiptoed back to the trail where he had just faced the horror. And he saw it. Lying neatly in the middle of the road was a pair of old, tattered plastic sandals. The strap was broken, tied together with a fishing line. Obviously, this was the relic of a person who had lived an extremely miserable life. Phong was stunned and picked up the sandals. Then his eyes glanced to the side. Right where he had knelt to burn votive paper earlier was a small, anonymous grave, overgrown with weeds. A cold truth ran down his spine. He performed the ritual rite on her final resting place. She wasn't trying to scare him. She was just trying desperately to show him the forgotten grave. The old sandals, and her whole life full of injustice. He understood. She wasn't a demon. She was just a poor, forgotten ghost with her old sandals in the cold, deserted Kajapit forest. The night fell, deep and quiet to the point of being creepy. There was a guy, perhaps to test his courage, or simply to make a cool video, who turned on his camera in the middle of that desolate scene. He was filming himself, his mouth mumbling along to a heroic gangster movie line. For more than 10 years, I've been wandering the world, not just relying on my guts. He talked about faith, about brothers, about loyalty. His expression at first still had a bit of confidence. But then, his eyes started to have something strange. Confusion, fear, because, as soon as those brave words rang out, behind him, from the thick darkness, a head, a bloody woman's head, slowly emerged. Its eyes were wide open, soulless, staring into the lens, as if it had been there for a long time, silently listening to him brag. The guy's face stiffened, the forced smile disappeared from his lips. He didn't dare to turn around. He could only look at the phone screen with utter horror. The demon was still there, right behind his neck, and then, suddenly, the video changed. The camera shook violently, panning wildly into the dark forest. The guy seemed to have run away. His courage from earlier had gone up in smoke. And then, a white shadow, flashing by like a gust of wind. Only his horrifying, panicked scream echoed in the night. "Ghost! Ghost! Run!" It hit me, and then the screen went black. The first entity that appeared behind the guy was very similar to the description of Penanggalan in Malaysian folklore, or Kresu in Thai culture. This is a type of terrifying female ghost, which can take the form of a normal person during the day. But at night its head and internal organs will separate from its body to seek fresh blood. Characteristics: it doesn't attack right away. but instead appears silently, as a warning that in desolate places, human courage is a laughing stock to the spirit world. Its soulless eyes reveal an ancient, emotionless evil. It delights in human fear rather than physical attack. This video is a terrifying reminder that the spirit world comes in many forms. There are demons that like to stalk, slowly gnawing at your fear. And there are other spirits that like to rush straight at you, leaving you in utter terror. The guy in the video was unlucky enough to encounter both types on the same night. People call this an exorcism. But look, it's more like a battle. Look at its appearance. It's crawling on the floor like a wild animal. Its long black hair is hanging down, covering its ghostly face painted white. It doesn't look, but it feels like it's observing everyone in the room. The shaman slowly approaches, muttering prayers. Suddenly an invisible force throws him back. Before it can even touch him, he falls to the carpet, and it remains motionless there. A defiant silence. This is no ordinary spirit or ghost. The crawling posture, the way it physically affects others without touching. This is a form of demon possession. It is an evil entity, a low-level demon possessing the body of a living person. There is a very scary detail that many people notice. Why is its face white? But its limbs are still those of a normal person? It is believed that when a demon possesses, it will try to transform the host's body to resemble its hideous form. But it can never do it perfectly. There is always a detail that is wrong. It is a sign to recognize the imposter. A mockery of its mockery of human helplessness. There is only the strangely loud music and the men trying to pray in despair. When you're lost in the deep woods at night, and your weak flashlight catches something, you wish you'd never seen it. That's what happened to this cameraman. In the middle of the pitch-black night, he came across a figure, wearing a crimson cloak. It just stood there, motionless, like a statue. Fear rising, he asked with a trembling voice, his voice cracking, "Who are you? Are you a human, or a ghost?" But all he got in response was deathly silence. And then, it raised its head. The eyes were red as two coals, staring at him. In utter terror, he screamed, trying to chase away the uninvited entity. "Why are you standing here? Get out of here. Get out. Don't stand here." But it didn't budge. It just stood there, in the dark, with glowing red eyes, as if waiting for something. And the camera could only record that much. The figure you just saw is most likely the ghost in red, or ghost in red. One of the most familiar and terrifying ghosts in American folklore. These are often the ghosts of women who died unjustly and tragically. And when they died, they were wearing a red shirt. Red symbolizes blood, resentment that cannot be released. They often wander in deserted places like in the video, the edge of the forest, the riverbank, deserted roads, to find a replacement or simply to spread terror. Its glowing red eyes are a sign of extreme resentment and bloodlust. It does not attack immediately, but often stands still so that the victim can fully feel the paralyzing fear. The question is, what did the cameraman do to anger it? Or was he simply in the wrong place at the wrong time? There was a kitchen. It looked quite old and messy. The roof was made of tin. A man, probably preparing a late dinner, was standing by the stove. At his feet, a small cat was walking around. The scene looked very normal, until, bang, the red bowl on the kitchen counter suddenly flew straight to the ground. The cat jumped and ran away. He turned around in surprise, his face showing confusion and fear. He walked unsteadily, looking around, trying to figure out what had just happened. But then, the most terrifying thing happened. He had just taken a few steps towards the window, when an invisible force. Looking at him, he panicked and ran away. Now, there was only an empty kitchen, and a terrifying silence. No one knew if it was a spirit or a demon, or someone was deliberately trying to tease him. Do you think this video is real or fake? Let me know what you think.
Xin chào các bạn. Một anh chàng đã để camera trong ngôi nhà quan, và mục đích của anh ta là để quay những cái linh hồn. Và qua những camera, anh ta đã thu thập được những bằng chứng như này, chứng minh linh hồn là có thật. Mời các bạn cùng xem. Đây là một chương trình thử thách tâm linh của người Nhật. Chương trình này mở ra dành cho những ai can đảm, những ai yếu tim thì không nên xem chương trình này. Anh ta đi vô một cái văn phòng sau giờ làm việc, và anh ta quay coi, đã thấy một cái đầu của một cô gái. Đây, một cái đầu của một con gái. Rồi anh ta tiếp tục đi tiếp, vừa livestream cho những người khán giả bên kia xem. Anh ta đã quay vòng vòng kiếm mà chẳng thấy gì nữa. Và rồi anh ta nghe tiếng động gì đó, anh ta quay ra. Và đây, và anh ta quay lại sau lưng, vô tình thấy được một cô gái tóc dài. Mời quý vị xem lại. Một cô gái tóc dài đen, áo trắng.
A woman and a boy are on the floor. The boy suddenly points to a doorway and starts screaming in fear. Just then, a cupboard door on the right side opens automatically. The boy becomes more frightened and screams louder. The woman tries to calm the boy down. Stop. Be quiet. Don't scream. It's okay. Don't scream. We are not scared. We will not feed the ghost. We are not scared. Her words show that she believes that there is a supernatural entity present and is trying to comfort the child. The woman and the boy are in a narrow kitchen. As the woman is standing near the stove, a blanket, or a large piece of cloth, is suddenly thrown from the doorway at the end of the kitchen onto the floor. Video commentary. Both of them are startled and scream. The woman screams, "Oh my God, stop it." Their reaction is one of extreme panic at the sudden and violent action. The woman was cleaning her bedroom alone, while she was picking up things from the floor. Many objects such as toys and pillows were continuously thrown from the bed to the ground even though no one was there. She was frustrated, picked up the pillows and threw them back on the bed, but they were thrown again. She was both scared and angry. She said, "What the hell? I'm not cleaning that. Who's dropping it?" And she kept shouting, "Stop it. I said stop it." This shows the escalation from frightening to teasing and vandalism, making the woman both scared and angry. Have you ever imagined, late at night, you have to walk alone down the stairs of an old apartment building? Your footsteps echo in the quiet space. The lights are flickering. Everything is dark and scary. And so the girl in this video experienced that. My friend, she kept walking down each step. Step by step, she could clearly hear her own breathing. But then, suddenly she felt something was wrong. It was like someone was looking at her. A chill ran down her spine. So she glanced up. Oh my God, a dark shadow, lonely, appeared. It stood right above her head, just a few steps away. Its appearance, it didn't look human, but the scariest thing was its blooming red eyes. As if wanting to burn everything, she screamed and started running as far as she could down the stairs. You know that feeling, right? Like knowing for sure that there was a terrible force chasing you. If you were just a second too late, you would die. Her footsteps just echoed, adding to the horror. I wonder if that demon could catch up with her. I wonder if she could escape. But the way she rushed out of the apartment, it was really haunting. I don't know what she actually encountered. Maybe she imagined it because she was tired. Or maybe there really was a demon haunting that apartment. But I think this story taught me something. That sometimes the biggest fears come from the most familiar places. The apartment stairs. From now on, I'll probably have to take the elevator. My friend. This story takes us to a deserted place at night. Perhaps an abandoned area. A man is shaking with a camera. Walking with a friend. They are not walking. They are looking for something. Or running away from it. The air is thick with fear. There, look, his friend exclaimed, his voice full of panic, pointing to a bush near an old concrete wall. From the darkness, a white shadow appeared. It was a girl, referred to as Kaka, but it was not an ordinary girl. Her body had been taken over. She bent down, her head almost touching the ground, then began to crawl, slithering towards them. Every movement was jerky, unnatural, like a puppet whose strings had been cut, or a wild animal stalking its prey. The cameraman screamed in fear. He backed away. The white shadow of Kaka raised its head, and although its face was not clearly visible, one could still feel its blank, empty gaze directed at them. And then, it began to accelerate. It rushed towards them like a spider, moving on its arms and legs at a terrifying speed. In a panic, the two men turned and ran for their lives. Their gasps and screams mixing. They ran towards a nearby dark tunnel, perhaps thinking it was a shelter. And that was when the real horror took shape. When the light shone on the tunnel's entrance, the thing standing there was no longer Kaka. It was huge, black, and deformed like a hybrid beast. It stood there, blocking the only way out. And in the midst of that deep darkness were two glowing red flames. The eyes of the demon. The video ends there, leaving us with the panting of the cameraman and the haunting image of the monster waiting in the tunnel. This is the first stage of the hunt. The skinwalker, a shape-shifting witch in Navajo culture, has taken over Kaka's body. It uses its human form to intrigue and appeal to the victim's compassion. However, the inhuman movements, crawling, slithering, twitching, create an uncanny valley effect, turning curiosity into extreme fear. It is a psychological terror, causing the prey to lose their composure and panic. That night, it was very late. On the deserted street, there was only the yellow light from a guy's late-night food cart. The wind blew gently, carrying the chill of the night. Everything was strangely quiet. The vendor, after a long tiring day, just wanted to sell to the last few customers and then pack up and go home to rest. He was busy cleaning up when, suddenly, he saw a girl sitting on the opposite chair without realizing it. The girl was quite young, wearing a red shirt, and a shawl draped loosely over her. She just sat there, silent, not saying a word. Probably a customer, he thought. He smiled, asking her what she wanted to eat. The girl did not answer, just nodded slightly. He did not think much, and started spreading a layer of hot cake batter on the round pan. The sizzling of the dough was the only sound that broke the eerie silence. He focused on making the cake, his hands quickly spreading the filling, pouring the sauce, but then, a strange feeling crept up on him. A cold, unsettling feeling. He looked up at the girl again. This time, he looked more closely. Oh my God! His whole body stiffened. His spine was cold. His skin crawled. His heart felt like it was about to jump out of his chest. That wasn't a human face. The girl's eyes were completely white, without any pupils. Her mouth, it was torn open, stretching from ear to ear, looking like a permanent, monstrous smile. Her skin was pale, lifeless under the streetlights. She was still sitting there, unmoving, staring at him with lifeless eyes. The spoon in his hand trembled so much that it almost fell off. He didn't dare to scream, didn't dare to move. His throat was dry. All his courage seemed to have been sucked out. In front of him, it wasn't a guest, but something that didn't belong to this world. And that entire terrifying moment, that entire ghostly image, was recorded by the security camera mounted on the cart without missing a single second. Another, more terrifying possibility is that this wasn't a human soul, but a demon. Demons often like to appear in distorted, horrifying forms to spread fear. Its purpose is not to eat, but to absorb negative energy from people's panic and fear. Its silence and immobility further increased the horror, because the fear didn't come from its actions, but from its very existence. Whether real or fake, this image succeeded in touching the most primitive fear of humans, the fear of the inexplicable, the entities lurking in the dark. The silence of the girl is even more terrifying than a loud scare. It leaves a chilling question. If one day, you were alone at night and looked up and saw something like that, what would you do? The story is about a man, perhaps an amateur explorer, who decided to explore the forest at night. He held a flashlight, walking cautiously on the dark trail, surrounded by only the chirping of insects and the rustling of leaves. He muttered something, perhaps to reassure himself, but his voice sounded shaky. Suddenly, from the darkness, a figure in white appeared, long hair hanging down, face unclear. That figure staggered towards him, emitting creepy groans. The man was extremely frightened. He screamed and ran away. He ran across the rough trails, stumbling repeatedly, but did not dare to look back. The white-clothed figure's groans still chased after him, as if wanting to drag him down to hell. He ran while muttering prayers, hoping to escape the pursuit of the supernatural force. Finally, he ran to an abandoned field, where bare stubble protruded from the ground. He collapsed, out of breath, but still did not dare to stop. He knew that the white-clothed figure was still somewhere in the forest, waiting for a chance to catch him. I don't know if this man escaped that forest or not, but one thing is for sure. He had to go through a terrifying night. I don't know what the white-clothed figure was. It could be a wandering spirit, a demon in human form, or it could just be a joke of darkness and imagination. Whatever it is, this story is still a warning to those who want to explore deserted places at night. Because sometimes, the things we cannot see are the scariest things. The scene is a large yard at night, captured by a security camera. The time on the screen reads 10:32 p.m. November 1st, 2021. Everything seems normal. A person, perhaps a worker or the homeowner, is working hard, seemingly trying to pull a large plastic tarp to cover some kind of material. The work seems quite strenuous in the quiet space. But they are not alone. At the gate, a small white cat stands motionless, like a living statue, its eyes probably watching every action in the yard. The person continues to pull the tarp. One more step, then another. Everything is normal, until one moment, boom, the person disappears. They don't run away. They don't fall down. They aren't dragged away by anything. They simply vanished into thin air in a split second. The tarp they were pulling lost its grip, gently falling to the ground. But the cat, it was still there. Silent, unmoved, as if it had witnessed this scene 1,000 times. As if it knew this would happen. The video ended, leaving behind an empty yard, a tarp lying around, and an eerily silent witness. The scariest thing about this video was not the hideous apparition, but the absurd disappearance and the presence of the only witness, the white cat. That night, we passed by an old hut by the roadside. Suddenly, my friend stopped, his hand trembling as he pointed inside. Under the flashlight, a figure appeared, a ghost, wearing a dark red dye. It sat there, its long black hair covering most of its pale face, revealing only its blood-red lips. Then a mournful singing voice rang out from somewhere. "It's so cold, don't leave me alone." People say it's the ghost of a girl who was betrayed in love, who died in the cold while still wearing a red wedding dress waiting for her lover. Her resentment was very heavy, not to harm others, but to spread her loneliness and despair. While we were still frozen in fear, it suddenly disappeared. From then on, I always told myself, at night, if I see any abandoned hut, don't be foolish enough to look inside. I am a person who is extremely fond of camping alone. The feeling of being immersed in nature, separated from the noise of the city, is really wonderful. This time, I chose a rather wild forest to challenge myself. As usual, I set up a small camera facing the tent, mainly in the hope of capturing a weasel or a deer passing by at night. That night, like many other nights, I read a book for a while and then fell asleep to the sound of crickets and rustling leaves. Everything was so peaceful. The next morning, while packing up, I happily took out the camera to review the results of last night. At first, it was just familiar scenes. A spider spinning a web, some frogs croaking on the leaves. I even chuckled because the nightlife was so rich. And then, I fast-forwarded to the video with the timestamp of nearly 2 a.m. My heart stopped, my spine was cold. From behind a tree, a tall, thin, shadowy figure swooped out. It didn't walk, it drifted, more accurately. Deadly silent, heading straight for my tent. My hands shook, almost dropping the camera. It stood there, right behind me, separated only by a thin layer of tent fabric. While I was still sleeping soundly inside, completely unaware, it stood there for a few seconds. A pale white shadow on the infrared screen, as if observing, contemplating. Then, as silently as it had come, it retreated and disappeared into the darkness. I sat there motionless for a long time, cold sweat pouring out. The peaceful feeling of the early morning vanished, replaced by an extreme fear. The fear of realizing that I was not alone that night. That trip was my last trip to that forest. Now, every time I close my eyes, I am still haunted by the white shadow gliding through the night. And wonder, what if that night, it decided to lift the tent flap? That night, I had to return home urgently because of a family matter. The shortcut through the old villages was already deserted. And now that it was night, it was even more deserted. Only my car headlights cut a faint streak of light through the thick darkness. I accelerated, just hoping to get home quickly. Suddenly, from afar, I saw a vague white figure. The closer I got, the faster my heart beat. A woman in a white dress, with long hair, was walking alone in the middle of the road. In a deserted place like this, at this hour, who would walk alone like that? A feeling of unease crept up inside me. I slowed down, keeping a safe distance. both scared and curious. She just kept walking, neither fast nor slow. Without turning back, her footsteps seemed to glide across the road, light and aimless. I didn't dare to honk, nor did I dare to pass. There was something about her appearance that sent a chill down my spine. I could only follow behind, the headlights acting as my only shield against this strangeness. And then, suddenly, she fell to her knees. It was as if some invisible string had just been severed. I was startled, trying to figure out whether I should get out of the car to help. But at that moment, my eyes blurred. The scene before my eyes blurred in a strange blue light. When I regained my composure, in just a blink of an eye, she had disappeared. The road ahead was empty. Only the sound of my car engine and the chirping of insects in the night remained. I stepped on the gas, rushing like a madman, not daring to look back. That white shadow and that sudden fall to my knees haunted me for the rest of the journey. And perhaps the rest of my life. You see, the story starts out very normal, even fun. In a car driving at night, two young girls, probably best friends, are enjoying their trip. The girl in the passenger seat is holding her phone and filming, while the blonde girl is driving. What are they doing? They are singing passionately and with all their heart. The melody of Adele's "Someone Like You" plays, and they join in, full of emotion, full of passion. Just a carefree moment of youth, a memorable memory that they want to record. The space in the car is filled with singing, laughter, a safe, private space. They keep singing, never mind, I'll find someone like you. Their voices get louder and louder, full of passion, and when the song reaches its climax, the girl holding the phone, perhaps unintentionally, gently pans the camera behind her. And right between the two front seats, a third face appeared. It wasn't a shadow, it was a clear face. White, a girl with black hair, eyes wide and lifeless, staring silently into the camera. There was no emotion, no life, it was just there, like a silent spectator from another world. It all happened so fast. The girl holding the camera hadn't noticed yet, but the blonde in the driver's seat did. For a moment, the singing joy on her face died. Her eyes widened, not in excitement, but in utter horror. Her mouth fell open, a silent scream stuck in her throat. The video shook violently, and then went black, leaving us with the final image of the wordless fear on the girl's face. And the haunting question, who is the uninvited guest in the backseat? That night, on a deserted street, we were walking when we felt something was wrong. A deathly silence. And then, under the flashlight, we saw them. Two figures. Two girls. One in a floral dress. One in a white dress. But, they had no heads. Seriously. Right where the neck should be was a pitch black void. The dress was just floating in the air. That sight sent a chill down my spine. We stood rooted to the spot, not daring to breathe. We backed away, step by step, but they started to move towards us. Slowly, but without hesitation. Then my friend panicked and screamed. We turned around. Run. We could only run as fast as we could. Their footsteps were still clattering behind us. According to the caption in the video, these were the spirits of a pair of twin sisters. They were not ordinary ghosts. The extreme pain and resentment after death has caused their souls to degenerate, becoming two demons. The fact that they have no heads is the most horrifying detail. It is believed that they died in a tragic accident that left their heads intact. Now, they wander on that fateful road, not to be liberated, but to find their lost body parts. Whoever they meet, they will approach, as if to see if that person is holding something that belongs to them. They cannot be liberated and will not let anyone pass through this place peacefully. To this day, I still dare not walk alone on any dark road, because the image of those two headless floating dresses, it will haunt me for the rest of my life. Never, never go into the woods alone at night. I was lost. Only the flickering light of my flashlight scanned the pitch-black darkness. And then, I saw it. There it stood, in the middle of the trail. Short, thin, in a strange hunched position, like a predator. But the most terrifying thing was its white mask. A grin slashed from ear to ear. Frozen in the darkness, it looked at me. I knew it looked at me. For a moment, we were both motionless. And then, it let out a roar, not a human voice, and charged at me. I screamed, stumbled. The camera was pointed at the ground. I could only hear it screaming, its frantic footsteps getting closer. Then a white shadow fell, and everything went black. That was the last image the camera captured. The locals call it the laughing devil. It is not a ghost, nor is it a spirit. It is an ancient entity, a guardian of this forest. That smiling face is not a mask. It is believed to be its real face, disfigured and frozen in a permanent, creepy smile after witnessing a terrible crime committed here centuries ago. It does not kill you outright. It likes to play on the fear of its prey. It will stand still, let you see it, let the panic rise in your chest. When your fear reaches its peak, that is when it strikes. It does not eat flesh. It feeds on your terror. In a simple room, the light from an infrared camera casts a cold, gray light over everything. A man is fast asleep on an old bed, exhausted after a long day. All around, it's completely quiet. But tonight, the space is not as quiet as it seems. A plaintive, mournful sound, like the wailing of a spirit, begins to echo from somewhere in the room. The sound is long, haunting, penetrating every corner. The man on the bed is still sleeping, completely unaware. And then, the first unusual thing happens. Suddenly, the plastic chair placed next to the refrigerator lifts itself into the air, then crashes to the ground with a dry sound. An action that defies all laws of physics. It seems that an invisible force is angry. And then, the camera pans down to under the bed, where the real horror awaits. From the dim darkness, a hand slowly appeared, but it was not a human hand. It was thin, black, with long, sharp claws like knives. It gently dug into the ground, as if testing its strength. A feeling of unease crept into the dream. The man on the bed began to stir. And then, a second hand appeared beside it. Two demonic hands with terrifying claws. The man woke up with a start. He jumped out of bed in panic, perhaps feeling a cold touch or hearing a noise right below him. A silent scream. He quickly looked under the bed. But in his panic, he saw nothing. Or perhaps, he didn't dare look closely. He looked around the room desperately. Without a second's hesitation, he rushed out of the room, leaving everything behind, running away from the horror he couldn't explain. And the camera was still there, capturing the final moment. The two demonic hands were still there, hidden under the bed, as if patiently waiting for their prey to return. This is the embodiment of one of the most primal fears of man. Something lurking under the bed. The place where we are most vulnerable, in our sleep, is the hiding place of a demon. The video opens in a cemetery where a man in military uniform is cleaning. At around the second, an old woman in plain clothes suddenly enters from the left side of the frame. When she stops, her figure becomes blurry and transparent, indicating that she is a ghost. The soldier stops working, takes out a small object from his pocket as if to offer. And the old ghost disappears. How do you feel? Tell us what you think. I don't know why I walked down that road. It was pitch black. Only the flickering flashlight lit the way. Suddenly, I stopped. My heart dropped out. At the end of the road, there were two figures. One was dressed in blue, the other in red. They stood still like statues, and were holding up something. Oh my God, it looked like a portrait. I was so scared. I wanted to turn around and run. But there was some urge that made me look back again. And that was the biggest mistake of my life. Now, there were not two, but three. A person dressed in white appeared right in the middle, standing with the other two. They were still holding up that portrait, silently staring at me. Mom, I screamed. I don't remember what I screamed anymore. I just knew I had to run. I turned around and ran as fast as I could, not daring to look back. The camera flew wildly, then went dark. These were not ordinary wandering ghosts. These were a group of ghost guides or soul procession ghosts. They were performing a ritual of the afterlife, carrying a newly deceased soul to the underworld. The two people in blue and red shirts could be minions, evil spirits, tasked with escorting. The portrait was a guide, proof that they were on duty. The appearance of the third person in white was the scariest moment. That could be the newly deceased soul, just entering its own procession. The cameraman had accidentally entered the path of yin and yang, and witnessed a scene that was absolutely not meant for the living. People say, when you see a procession of ghosts, never let them see you. Because if not, you will be the next person they take away. The video begins with footage from a security camera in a dark bedroom. The display time is around 22:05. On the bed, there is a person sleeping, a black spirit all over. On the floor, next to the bed, a young man is lying motionless. The black spirit suddenly disappears. Then, the young man stands up and stares at the people sleeping on the bed. The sleeping people seem to be unaware. Suddenly, the entity appears and sits between the two people lying on the bed. After sitting for a while, the black spirit leans towards the young man sleeping outside. The man wakes up with a start, sees the black demon and runs outside. Then the black demon disappears. The video ends abruptly, leaving a feeling of horror and uncertainty about what happens next. The video begins with a person pointing at a computer screen displaying footage from a security camera. The camera shows a hexagonal tiled yard at night, with a small fish pond to the right. The person begins to explain that they are checking the camera to find out why their fish are dying. On the camera screen, a small, doll-like figure with black hair and a green glow around its lower body suddenly appears from the left side of the screen. Near a white car, the person watching the video points at it and expresses surprise. The creature moves slowly and cautiously across the yard, towards the fish pond. The strange creature reaches the edge of the pond, then crouches down and enters the water. Its green glow is clearly visible in the dark pond. The narrator explains in a frightened voice that this is when the creature attacks and eats their fish, causing ripples in the water. After a while underwater, the creature emerges from the water, stands at the edge of the pond, then turns around and moves back to the left side of the screen before disappearing completely. The camera footage returns to normal, with no sign of the strange creature. Only the other fish in the pond appear to be panicking. Viewers of the video continue to express their shock and sadness at the mysterious death of their large, healthy koi fish. Viewers use their mouse to rewind the footage to the moment the strange creature appears and enters the pond. They point at the screen again to emphasize the scene of the creature in the pond, describing how it opens its mouth and attacks the fish. They mourn the loss of their most beloved fish. The video ends while playing this scene again. It all started on a chilly night. Security camera captured a person, probably the homeowner, trying to chase away a white figure standing motionless in the yard. The white figure wore a long dress, black hair down, just standing still like a statue. The other person threw a bucket of water, but it didn't budge. Please watch it again with me. This is a truly scary female ghost. The video begins with the cameraman's perspective walking through a dark forest. The flashlight beam sweeps through the bushes and tree trunks, creating a creepy atmosphere. Suddenly, the flashlight shines directly on a figure dressed in white, seemingly a woman with long hair, standing motionless between two tree trunks. The cameraman utters panicked words. "Hey, I swear I'll go up there?" As the girl flies straight up the tree, he panics and runs away.